Let me pivot for a second now to the leadership topic. We've been talking a lot about numbers and about markets, but you think Vanguard's secret to success is people. So how do you think about the whole people equation? Talent identification, talent development, leadership development. What makes Vanguard a people organization?
Well, we do this thing where we sort of talk about our business model, if you will, and at the heart of it are people. And you know, we discovered a number of years ago that you can have the best strategy in the world, and if you just study corporate America, you know, you go back and look over 100 years, more companies fail because of lack of execution, frankly, than lack of cogent strategy. And what's behind execution, of course, having great people. And so for, I would say, the last 20 years or so, we've had a pretty focused effort on trying to make sure we have a great team in place. And you know, it starts with a philosophy, and this will sound a little bit paternalistic, I guess, or parochial, but when we interview, we tell people, don't come for the job, you know, whatever we're hiring for, come for a career. And obviously not everybody does that, but you know, people like me.
Bucking the trend these days.
Yeah,
if that's
it is
pitch.
bucking the trend, and it is the pitch, and it's come for a career, and we will invest very heavily in you, and you'll get to do many different things. And you know, my career is probably as good an example as anybody. You know, I started out, you know, doing undoing bad leverage buyouts on Wall Street. You know, when I left Wharton, and you know, learned a lot. And I thought I might transition into being like an equity portfolio manager, deep value guy, or whatever. And Vanguard was looking for what was called a guaranteed investment contract product manager. That's a mouthful. Anybody know what it is? Yeah, I got a couple of, you know, if you've been around long enough in the 401k world, you remember these things called GICs, which were essentially CDs issued by insurance companies to 401k plans. So my first job was managing that program at Vanguard. And you know, the cool thing was, after 18 months, I was put in charge of product development, where I got to work on, you know, lots of new fund ideas, and then I moved over to the institutional side to try to build up the 401k business, and then I got a chance to do some stuff globally. So the point was, I got lots of different opportunities. You could even say multiple careers within one umbrella organization, and we're trying to do that same thing.
Okay, so I can see on the talent development side that that's a fantastic thing to do, and you also, you know, you want people in those jobs, if you're a supervisor, to be playing with live bullets. There've got to be consequences to action, but you also don't want to do stuff where when somebody chances their arm, it doesn't work out. So how do you balance those two things, giving people opportunity for growth, but making sure that, you know, they can't do material damage to the company at the same time? I need some help on this, by the way, in a slightly smaller scale at the Wharton School.
You know, we try to put guardrails in place, but I actually think you got to be willing to let people fail, and you know, you've got to recognize it obviously fairly early in the process and not let it go too far. But I believe if you don't put people into real stretch assignments and, you know, in a sense, let them fail, you're not going to be successful. And you know, I know if you take our executive team, and you know, myself included, I mean, we each have a long list of failures. And what was really great was, you know, our bosses or our mentors at the time would make sure that we understood when we'd failed and what to learn from it. And you know, let's be clear, don't make the same mistake 3 times in a row. Mm-hmm. So, but that ability to fail is actually really important.
So when you're looking at, again, in this talent development game, how do you evaluate that? How do you tell when somebody failed because the structure was not propitious versus it was something that they did? I mean, I presume that's the most important filter when you're trying to really identify and promote talent you've got to do.
You know, I think it's a really hard, I think it's a great question, and I don't have a perfect answer for it because I think it's really hard, but what you look for are patterns. And so you may, you know, somebody may struggle with an assignment, and you try to look at what competencies, if you will, were they, you know, short on in that particular assignment, and then you look to see if it repeats itself, and then you maybe have a more difficult problem if it does. And so we would tend to give people multiple chances, and what you don't want to see are the same sets of mistakes over and over.